Hello everyone, how are we? And welcome to another video. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Matthew Shepherd. Matthew's currently Player Care and Education Officer at Bristol City. So, hello mate, thank you very much, appreciate your time. How are we?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you, mate. It's a Thursday, so I work in the academy, and PGA academies have their game on Wednesdays, so it's a bit more of a wind down day for us, where we can probably sit and chill a little bit and get through some emails, which is always enjoyable. But yeah, no, we're doing good.
Is it 2 days off you'll normally have? Obviously a Thursday and a Sunday or a Saturday or
So it's kind of like Thursday's a day off, but it's more just kind of the program quietens down from a very busy day on a Wednesday. So we sometimes have games on the weekend, but it's usually Thursday is our quieter day. And for me, it's the day where I probably am able to sit at home and just focus on emails. Just because you have to be obviously reactive. Wednesday game day is just emails aren't achievable. You're on site, you're pitch side, there's lots going on. So it makes life a whole lot easier just having a very quiet day on a Thursday.
yeah, but still not a day off and you're still working.
Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about your journey then. I know you was at uni and then worked in some unis and done some other stuff. So yeah, just give us a little bit of rundown about you, mate.
Yeah, so I guess a really, I guess, easy way is to go through from start of university to where I am now. Try to bring it alive slightly without sounding too boring. I went to university and studied sports psychology and coaching sciences at Bournemouth Uni. Bournemouth's a really good sporting uni. It's kind of like the top quarter in the country. It's not a kind of elite sporting uni, but it's got real good performance sport program. Within about 6 months of starting my sports psych degree, I was like, I do not want to be a sports psychologist. So many hoops you have to jump through, a very long period of time, but also the very, I guess, sciencey side of trying to get in someone's head. I just didn't click with me. I didn't enjoy it. So kind of ended up being a bit lost, didn't know what to do. I did a degree where I had a placement year. So my third year was spent out in industry, kind of a sandwich year. And still didn't know what I wanted to do then. I initially signed up just to be a sports coach. I do coach trampolining and used to compete in it. So I thought I could just go be a trampoline coach. But I ended up seeing a unpaid placement in Australia at the University of Queensland, which is a top 50 uni in the world, amazing institution. And ended up applying to that, ended up moving to Australia for a year, lived with family, got a grant through the Erasmus Fund to be able to afford to go out and do that unpaid, got a job out there coaching trampolining. But I basically spent a year working with Olympic level athletes, just helping them balance being a full-time athlete, trying to be a part-time or full-time student in education as well. As you can imagine, those at Olympic level, they're in full-time programs. They're fully funded athletes. So they have full-time programs all day, every day. So trying to achieve education alongside that is difficult. So it just opened my eyes to a whole new world of athlete support that necessarily wasn't the very objective S&C physio, being a coach, or even maybe the more technical psychology side, but still being the person around the athlete, trying to help them grow, trying to help them get better, trying to make their life easier. And that just reached out. So when I came back from my fourth year of uni, I went to the sport development manager who headed up kind of the sports psychology, sport scholarship, elite pathway program at the uni. And I just said, how do I get your job? I want your job. What have I got to do to get there? And he was very frank and gave me a list of things, of qualifications, courses that he had done and experiences he went and got. And that was like gold dust. He then actually was going on adoption leave after I finished my final year. So he adopted a child and was going off for a few months to look after that child. And I applied to a job in the sport department. They ended up giving me a job covering the admin of the sports scholarship program, just mainly because I put myself out there.
Yeah.
I was keen and wanted to get the right experience, and so by showing that, they ended up giving me whilst it was a temporary job, it was a job working with sports scholars, just understanding the basic administration of services that athletes might access and how they need that support. With uni working a variety. lifestyle support qualification, which is what you need a level 3 basis to be able to deliver support to athletes. So they paid for me to do that when I did it within the 12 months given to me, and was a qualified lifestyle support advisor to athletes. So I then spent 2 years at Bournemouth doing that. I then moved to the University of Exeter, where I was sports scholarship administrator. Again, even more hands-on with athletes, meeting them one-to-one. Each year I probably worked with 20, 25 scholars, and then including TAS athletes on top of that, on one-to-one, just managing lifestyle, managing transition of coming to university from home, transition of moving through the pathway. So actually, if they're a GB hockey player, are they currently in the EDP program, or are they moving into the senior team? So helping them juggle that whilst still trying to be a student. Did that for probably about 3 years, and it was every day was just like going to do a hobby. I never went to work. I went to do a hobby every day. It was just a brilliant job with a brilliant team. I then moved out of sport education for a while and just went into student recruitment. Whilst that wasn't in sport, that taught me how to speak to people, how to deliver information, how to create workshops, how to create presentations. That's what I did very regularly. So it taught me some really vital skills I actually needed for my current job, which is where I am now as player care and education officer in the Women's Academy at Bristol City. And that is a slightly long-winded version of where I've got to today.
That's really cool. That's really cool, mate. In terms of Australia, what was the biggest thing you learned when working with those Olympic level athletes out there?
Just
what comes to mind.
Just the utter kind of spectrum of things that could be a problem.
Yeah.
So obviously, when in education, you've got the instant you need to be able to develop skills such as time management, organization, communication. Those were 3 big things that embedded in the job was what you had to do. So say I worked with a 20 or 50 kilometer speed distance walker who went to the Olympics and won Olympic medals. He'd come in, and I've got this deadline, but I'm actually meant to be on a flight going over to the UK to do a 2-week camp in preparation for the World Championships. Well, who do you need to speak to? How often do you need to communicate with them?
Yeah.
What do you need to plan? And it was reinforced regularly with so many different athletes of these would become the common themes: time management, organization, communication, and which all kind of feeds into a support network and managing your support network, because athletes, as they develop, realize that they are the center of their own support network. So communication has to go through them. They've got to own it. They are the person on that sporting journey. So when I was out in Australia, that's what I quickly learned was life skills are so important to athletes who are developing from, say, that 18 age all the way through to the end of their sporting career. So that's what Australia taught me from the off was, one, there's so many different things, but embedded in each of them is your organization, time management, communication skills, key to being a person.
Yeah, I feel that stuff's really important. There's a lot of obviously performance lifestyle roles now which focus on that aspect because it's so important to athletes. We've worked on it a little bit at the start of the season at Portsmouth. Time management and stuff. A lot of the women in tier 3 are working as well, so they're working 8 till 5 and then traveling down and training 7, 9 or whatever. So those time management skills are really important there for sure.
Massively. It's and it's trying to embed that in players from an earlier age.
Yeah.
Because we live in a world where social media is a big influence. We have a phone next to us all the time, and trying to deliver things that are not engaging in that way can sometimes be a bit of a barrier to engaging that youthful generation. But you see those who take control or take charge of their schedules and what they do from, say, the age of 16, and how that translates when they're a player going into a first team or getting first team opportunities, because they're sending off emails to their tutors or their lecturers, to their player care staff, to coaches around organising their time. Whereas those who might pick it up much later are still unsure about what they should be doing when they're being given those opportunities, and ultimately that might hamper that golden opportunity that they want to get. So not only is it key, I guess, delivering those, or helping understand those skills, but it's from a much earlier age. So when independence comes, because independence is a massive thing, especially in football, as you get older, you get, on the men's side, more money, more opportunity to go do new things. Independence is key in making sure that you take control of your independence and you don't rely on other people to give you that independence.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. 100%. So in terms of your current role then at Bristol, what is the biggest challenge that you face on a regular basis?
I think the biggest challenge at the moment is the women's pathway for football restructured and changed over the summer of 23. So the old model and structure that was in place was scrapped and was recreated as the Professional Game Academy, which is what we have now, the PGA. And it has professionalized women's football massively. My role is now brand new. I'm the first person at Bristol City in the women's club to be doing this role in the academy, which effectively means everything we do and I do is from scratch. So everything that I need to have done, i.e. maybe in the sense of an audit, what the audit says I need to be doing to make sure we are safe to operate and we are safe to deliver player care support, through to the on-the-ground needs that the players represent to me, everything is coming from scratch.
Yeah.
And that's been a challenge in itself. It's a challenge, but it's also really exciting, because in however many years' time, or when the program's developed, you get to look back and go, well, actually, everything is being done originated from the support I provided or I created and those around me. I'm really lucky that I work in a club where the player care manager on the boys' side is so supportive of me and what I want to do, and that in any help I need, he's there. Any resources that he uses, he's there to support and provide. So that does make my life easier. But easily the biggest challenge at the moment, while sounds very generic and very broad, is everything's from scratch. So creating a player care strategy, creating an induction program around player care, creating a transition team or transition process between either first team or end of a journey with the club.
Yeah.
That's obviously a big one, is players leaving the pathway. We have to make sure that when players leave our pathway, we don't just leave them and drop them and say goodbye. We make sure that we help guide them to a new opportunity. We give them next steps. And you've got to do it quickly. You know, creating a player care strategy and a player care pathway from scratch when you've got 50 odd players in your PGA, and then including another team below that, there's a lot of people to be trying to provide support for. So there's a lot going on, and there's only, you know, yourself to do it. So it's a big challenge, but it's an exciting one.
Yeah, it sounds like there's lots of challenges. So then on the opposite end, what's the thing that you enjoy most about the role?
Working with the players. I like to class myself a people person. I'm empathetic. I love chatting to people. I'm very subjective in my head. So actually, it's not that I'm not analytical, but I much rather delve into emotion and thought and reasoning as opposed to looking at numbers and stats, which probably suits this role. So being able to be pitch side at training, as the players come over on the pitch and they're putting their player makers on and they're getting everything ready to go run around the pitch for an hour and a half, I get to just chat with them, see how they are. You know, do I go in and see them on a Monday when they're about to begin training? Everybody knows Monday is the worst day of the week. How are they on a Monday when I can then see them on a Friday and see how their week's gone? So just being able to get to know the people and encouraging the personality out of individuals, because what we don't want football to do is create, if there's a team of 20 people, create 20 people of the same people. We want to create a team of 20 individuals who come to collective to make a team. So my role of being able to bring personality out in people and encourage them to be who they are and who they want to be is then really exciting to see that translate as they communicate, chat on the pitch or in the classroom when we're doing a workshop. So easily by far it's the players and being with the players and working with the players.
Yeah, that's probably the same answer for me, to be honest. It's great. They're great people, and you meet some great people. The staff are great too. The staff I work with are really cool too. So yeah, it's a great environment. In terms of university students and who are looking to to get into football. They want to work in football. Something you said earlier, I just wrote down actually, and it was how important it is to put yourself out there. If you had any advice for university students, would that be, you know, one of the best piece of advice you could give to put yourself out there and that type of thing?
Yeah. Now, we're in a day and age. You know, if you went to university 20 years ago, not everyone was going to university, or even 30 years ago, it was a handful of people going. It's still, you know, I don't know what the stats are, but there's so many more people going to university. Now, I've worked in the university sector. I've worked in student recruitment in the university sector, so I understand the desire of people wanting to go, which ultimately means now that there's lots and lots and lots of people who have the same degree as you. You've got to find another way to stand out. So whenever I've gone for an interview, whenever I always ask for feedback, and especially in my early years post-graduation, what stands out on my CV or what stands out on what I've done. My placement year was really big. It was international experience, but I'd already spent a year out in industry. So a big thing that I always say is when you put yourself out there, that's get experience. But initially, how do you know what that experience is? So is it messaging people like myself or yourself with the job titles that we have on our LinkedIn profile and message them? Can we catch up and have a chat? You've got the job I want to have. What have you done? How do you get there? What things have you done that has shaped your career into this? And then all of a sudden that you know, well, that's what they've done to get to the point I want to get to. You've got your list of your to-do list to get where you want to go. So yeah, putting yourself out there is maybe more in the subjective sense of if someone's got a job title that you like, message them, chat to them. Most people in our roles are people. We love chatting to people. We love helping people. So we're going to want to help you as well. And then it's putting yourself out there of sometimes, you know, football is a law upon itself as an industry. It's its own industry in the world of sport. It's just huge. So trying to get into it is really hard and really difficult. So it's not that I want to say, you know, cheapen yourself by only going for unpaid placements or unpaid voluntary roles and get experience, but that's a good way of getting experience. Once you've got that experience under your belt, you can then turn around and go, well, I have experience of this now, I'm worth something. If you can show that you've had impact in a role, even if it's unpaid, you've got worth, take that worth with you. So putting yourself out there, it's a few different ways, but that's always my big piece of advice.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I feel like it's very, it's vital to do that. I feel like you mentioned, I looked it up the other day actually. I think 2.6 million students enroll a year. So because there's so many people getting these degrees now, I feel like degrees are losing value because there's so many of them. So like you say, yeah, you got to stand out, and you can do that through getting experience, and it's so important. 100%. So the next question I want to talk about player care. Do you feel like it's important to have some experience with working with athletes before going into player care? I know a lot of people do the teaching route. You obviously worked with athletes before. Do you feel like it's vital to have that experience in some capacity?
Yeah. I think it's a pathway of a career where you can bring lots of transferable skills, but ultimately you need to know how to problem solve and communicate. Those are two massive things with this job. Is you know, you will have somebody come to you with a problem, and firstly they might find it really hard to articulate that problem, so you've got to find ways of being able to get that information out of them in a supportive and caring way, and then be able to problem solve. So how are we going to tackle this? But it's also about empowering that individual. So if you come from a role or have experience around empowering other individuals, problem solving around people, those are really fantastic transferable skills to bring. I know some people who have come into the role or come into the career from a totally different area of work. Like I say, it's such a transferable skill role, but ultimately you've got to be a person-centered person. The role of player care isn't about making, it is about making a better footballer, because I'm, you know, if I work for a football club, you work for a football club. So it's about making footballers, but our role is about making and developing people. If we develop a better person, we develop a better footballer. The better they are off the pitch, hopefully, the better they are on the pitch. So you've got to come with that understanding of problem solving, communicating, and being empathetic. And now you can get those from care. You know, think of the care sector. you can bring that with you. Safeguarding crosses over massively. Teaching is a big profession where people come from, not only because you work and support people, but safeguarding comes included into that. So there's a few professions, but I think it's looking at those key transferable skills that you can bring in to the pathway or into the role.
Yeah, 100%. Again, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, so the final question I have then is, how do you see player care evolving over the years? Because I was going to say, how can we improve it? We know it can be improved for sure, but how do you see it evolving over the years naturally?
I think I see it evolving more into care and more into being that person-centered approach. I think player care between a academy environment and a first team environment, the higher up the pathway you go, are two very different things. I'm enrolled on a course at the moment with the FA around athlete development, or an athlete development practitioner. Really interesting. We spent an exercise looking at different player care job descriptions in the industry, just in football. A lot of first team roles were around managing player appearances, their media requests, bank accounts, looking after their family at home when they're away. It could be anything that could be do with helping them get through their day-to-day life, which to me, without being too controversial, sounds more like a PA or what a friend would do. I'm not going to book your media appearances. I'm not caring for you there. I'm doing your admin bits. I'm helping you get through your day. So actually, for me, the role of player care is empowering somebody to become more independent. We don't want dependent athletes. We want independent athletes. Whereas the role of player care in academy, or the lower down the pathway you go, is around life skill development. It's around social identity, understanding who people are away from football. It's around next career opportunities. It's around emotional, physical, and mental well-being. So that's where I see, or I would hope that player care will evolve over time, is those people in, or the positions in higher up the pyramid in first teams, player care becomes more around player care. I'd also like to see it evolve with the 21st century. So actually the way we deliver player care becomes a bit more digitized, a little bit more interactive, because we need to be able to see, whilst I said earlier that I'm very subjective, not very an analytical person, we still need to see and understand the impact of player care on players. At the moment, I would say a lot of what we're doing is we're doing because we've been told we need to do it. So we're just getting workshops in, we're doing next career steps, but actually it being player led. So actually because what I guess the girls in my pathway will want or will need will be totally different to what you need, James, at Portsmouth. So player care to us might be slightly different to what player care is for you. So players getting involved more and more in leading what player care looks like, because we're ultimately here for them. So they need to direct and lead it. So as it evolves, I think hopefully it will become more 21st century-fied and look a little bit swankier and have a little bit more involvement with apps and websites and etc., but being more player care led, or player led, sorry.
Yeah, great answer, mate.
Thanks.
That's all the questions I have. So yeah, thanks for your time, mate. That was very helpful to people looking at player care and students. So yeah, do appreciate it.
I appreciate it, and that's why. And I think I'm always, like I said, I was the person once back in 2017, 2016, messaging managers and people being, I want your job.
Yeah.
How do I get there? If anybody wants to message me and go, I want your job, how do I get there? I'm more than happy to return that favour.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. Nice fun.
Thanks for having me, James.
No worries. Cool. So thank you for watching. I'm sure you found that very helpful. All the best.